People always ask, who do you want to become? But no one ever asks, who are you? When nobody is watching. When there's no applause, no validation, nothing left to prove, who remains? Yeah. Since I was young, I memorized the answers they gave. Good grades, good jobs, the kind of life they called safe. Folded pieces of myself to fit inside their expectations, hiding who I truly was beneath accepted presentations. I learned how to smile before I learned how to grieve. Saying I'm okay became the easiest thing to believe. I shaped myself around the image others wanted to see, until the face inside the mirror looked unfamiliar to me. When did approval become something I needed to survive? When did comparison decide if I was worthy in this life? Success became the measure of the value that I held, and every failure whispered stories that I wasn't enough myself. I lost my sense of direction, trying to fulfill demands, chasing outcomes over understanding who I really am. I wore 1,000 different labels pinned against my chest, but none of them reflected who I was beneath the rest.
If I let go of everything, what would remain?
Without the masks, without the roles, who am I?
Who am I? When nobody's watching.
Without applause, without validation,
Would I still know myself?
beyond success and failure.
Beyond everything I've tried to be,
Maybe it's okay
not to have the answers. I'm still learning who I am.
Maybe that's why silence used to frighten me at night, 'cause I'd have to face the thoughts I'd hidden out of sight. I kept moving forward, but still felt incomplete, living by another person's standards while abandoning my dreams. I carried expectations that were never truly mine, calling them ambition while ignoring warning signs. Yet somewhere deep inside me there was always a quiet voice asking if this life I built was really my own choice. I began releasing the belief that I must be perfect, learning that mistakes don't determine what I'm worth. I realized that direction matters more than certainty, and not having all the answers doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. I still don't fully understand the person I've become, but I no longer fear the unknown or what may come. Maybe life's not asking me to figure everything out. Maybe it's teaching me to grow despite my doubts. Perhaps identity isn't something we discover once and for all. Perhaps it's something we create through our choices, our values, and the courage to remain authentic. Maybe we are not fixed beings. Maybe we are always becoming.
Who am I when nobody's watching?
Without the world's expectations,
Who am I allowed to be?
I may not be perfect,
I may still be uncertain,
but that's okay.
because life isn't about having all the answers.
It's about understanding yourself a little more each day.
Who am I when nobody's watching?
Maybe I'll spend my whole life exploring that question, and maybe that's enough. Before asking what life means, ask who is living it. Perhaps the goal was never to find a final answer. Perhaps the goal was to have the courage to keep asking,
To keep growing,
to keep growing.
to keep becoming.
I am still becoming.
I am still becoming.
People say they know me, but maybe they only know the version of me I've chosen to show. When do we begin believing that being accepted was more important than being authentic? Yeah, yeah. At school I learned how to play the role of the good kid. At home I learned to smile beneath expectations I lived with. Around my friends I became the easygoing one, while hiding the battles I fought when the day was done. I'm fine became the phrase I used the most, burying my pain when nobody would look too close. It felt much safer to become what others wanted to see than risk showing the complicated truth to me. I adjusted myself to fit inside their definitions, slowly losing sight of my own ambitions. I looked into the mirror at a familiar face, wondering why I felt like a stranger in that place. I wanted acceptance, I wanted to belong, the fear of rejection to follow me for so long. So I hid my real emotions behind carefully designed roles, protecting myself while slowly losing control. Did they truly love me? Or did they love the version of myself I learned to perform behind these masks we wear? Where is the real me? Beneath the smiles and practiced expressions, there's a heart longing to breathe. Maybe the hardest thing I've ever had to do is let myself be seen without pretending, without hiding, just as I am. Yeah, just as I am. Yeah. I spent years trying to appear strong, pretending everything was fine all along. Meeting expectations became my daily routine, while the person I truly was faded behind the scenes. I could stand in crowded rooms and still feel alone, because no one knew the self I'd never fully shown. Hiding my truth became second nature to me, until I forgot who I was underneath. But vulnerability was never weakness after all. Sometimes true courage means allowing your defenses to fall, accepting the imperfect parts I tried to erase, learning to offer myself compassion and grace. Not everyone will understand the person I choose to be, but I no longer need universal approval to feel free. If I can remain authentic despite my fear, then maybe I finally become sincere. Perfection was never the price of love. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is courage. Real connection begins where the masks finally fall away. Behind these masks we wear, where is the real me? I no longer have to hide to deserve acceptance and peace. Someone else's expectations will never define my worth. So little by little I'll choose authenticity first. Behind these masks we wear, I am learning to be seen, not as who the world expected me to become, but as who I truly am. Perhaps the deepest loneliness is being loved for someone you pretend to be. And perhaps the greatest act of courage is allowing yourself to be seen exactly as you are. How many dreams am I carrying that were never truly mine? How much of my life has been spent trying to become someone else's definition of enough? I grew up believing love was earned through achievement. Good grades, good choices, constant self-improvement. Every compliment came attached to expectation, turning validation into my main motivation. Parents only wanted what they thought was best, but pressure disguised as love still weighed upon my chest. Teachers measured potential through numbers on a page, while society rewarded those who won the race. I compared my beginning to another person's peak, searching for my value and approval that I seek. Success became the language that determined what I was worth, as if my existence needed proof to justify my birth. I learned to fear mistakes more than losing myself, placed impossible standards upon my mental health. Trying to satisfy everyone around me, I slowly lost sight of who I wanted to be. If I achieve everything they asked of me, will I finally feel enough? Or will I keep chasing acceptance that was never mine to earn? The weight of expectations heavy on my soul, trying to be everything left me feeling less whole. I've carried dreams that weren't my own, afraid to disappoint, but maybe real freedom begins when I choose my own voice. The weight of expectations no longer defines me. My worth was never something I had to prove endlessly. Yeah. Burnout became familiar from constantly performing, ignoring inner warnings while another day was forming. I was living for applause that faded far too fast, sacrificing present peace while chasing future plans. Somewhere underneath the pressure and the fear, a quiet voice kept asking why I was here. Was I building a life that truly belonged to me, or becoming who others expected me to be? I started redefining what success could mean. Not achievements on display, but inner peace unseen. Learning that my value doesn't rise and fall based on other people's standards. After all, disappointing others doesn't make me wrong, especially when betraying myself lasted far too long. For the first time in my life, I understand authenticity matters more than fitting every plan. Success without meaning becomes another prison. Approval without authenticity creates emptiness. Perhaps true fulfillment begins when our values align with the lives we choose to live. The weight of expectations I no longer have to carry. I release the need for perfection. I release unnecessary worry. The weight of expectation will not decide my fate. I choose to build a life that reflects the person I create. The weight of expectation no longer controls me. I was never meant to live someone else's dream. Maybe I was never born to become everything they expected. Baby, I was born to discover who I truly am. And perhaps that is enough. Some wounds never completely disappear. Some memories still echo long after the pain has passed. I used to believe healing meant becoming untouched, but maybe healing was never about forgetting. Maybe healing is learning how to carry what hurt us without allowing it to harden our hearts. Yeah. I wore a smile like armor, hiding cracks beneath the surface, fighting silent battles while pretending I was working. People saw resilience, but never saw the cost. The nights I questioned everything and mourned what I had lost. Broken trust taught lessons I never chose to learn. Watching bridges fall apart and relationships burn. I searched for reasons suffering found its way to me, wondering why pain seemed woven into destiny. There were moments I felt isolated in the crowd, carrying invisible wounds I never spoke aloud. Trying to stay strong became my daily disguise, while storms of grief and anger lived behind my eyes. I asked myself if pain was proof that I was weak, or if there was a deeper truth I had yet to seek. Maybe scars weren't signs of failure after all. Maybe they were evidence that I survived the fall. Will these wounds define me? Will this pain remain? Or can suffering become a teacher, guiding me through change? Shadows and scars, stories written on my soul. Not every wound disappears, but healing makes us whole. The darkest nights I walked through taught me how to stay alive. Shadows and scars, I no longer hide. Every mark became a reminder of the strength I hold inside. Yeah. Pain changed the way I looked at other people's tears, teaching me compassion through my own deepest fears. It's easier to understand another person's fight when you've had to search for hope within your darkest nights. Healing wasn't linear, some days I lost my way. Old memories resurfacing despite the progress made. But growth isn't perfection or never feeling pain. It's learning how to carry it without becoming chained. Forgiveness wasn't saying what happened was okay. It meant refusing to let resentment shape my days. I chose to free my spirit from bitterness and blame, allowing room for peace without erasing what remained. I stopped asking why me and started asking what now. How can this experience teach me to love somehow? Perhaps the deepest wounds can open hidden doors, leading us toward empathy we never knew before. Pain itself does not create wisdom. Suffering alone changes nothing. But the way we respond, the way we choose compassion over bitterness, hope over despair, love over fear, that is where transformation begins. Shadows and scars, stories written on my soul. Not every wound disappears, but healing makes us whole. Shadows and scars, proof that I survived. The darkest nights I walked through taught me how. Scars never disappeared, but neither did my ability to love. Perhaps healing was never about becoming untouched. Perhaps healing was learning to carry my pain with grace. And maybe these scars were never proof that I was broken. Maybe they were proof that I survived. I used to think letting go meant losing something important. Holding on felt like proof that it mattered. But maybe peace doesn't come from controlling what stays. Maybe peace begins when we stop resisting what has already changed. Oh. I held on to old memories like they could change the past. Replaying conversations, wishing certain moments lasted. Carried unfinished stories and questions without reply, searching for explanations beneath familiar skies. I thought that letting go meant forgetting what was real, as if moving forward would erase the way I feel. So I clung to broken chapters long after they were done, afraid that releasing pain meant losing everyone. I carried guilt for choices I wished I could rewrite, judging older versions of myself through present hindsight, trying to hold together things already meant to end, exhausted from resisting changes I couldn't comprehend. There was comfort in familiar pain despite the cost, because uncertainty felt scarier than loss. I didn't realize attachment was another form of fear, keeping me from healing while pretending I was here. Maybe I can't change the past, maybe I can't control what leaves, but perhaps I can choose how I carry what remains. The art of letting go is not forgetting what was true. It's learning how to honor love without losing yourself too. The art of letting go is not surrendering in defeat. It's making peace with what has changed and finding freedom underneath. The art start, yeah. I began forgiving people who could never make things right, not because they earned it, but to free my inner life. Forgiving myself for not knowing what I know today. Understanding growth is born through mistakes along the way. I learned that impermanence gives beauty to our time, because moments don't last forever, they become more meaningful in life. Yeah, love was never ownership or forcing things to stay. Sometimes loving deeply means allowing space away. I stopped carrying expectations too heavy for my soul, realizing not everything was mine to control. The future still remains uncertain and undefined, but peace appears when resistance no longer rules the mind. I discovered strength isn't found in holding tight as still, but in trusting life enough to bend without losing will. Releasing what no longer serves who I want to be. Created room for healing and possibility. Impermanence is not punishment, it is part of being alive. Seasons change, people change, we change, and perhaps the beauty of life is learning to love fully without needing to hold forever. The art of letting go is not forgetting what was true. It's learning how to honor love without losing yourself too. The art of letting go is not surrendering in defeat. It's making peace with what has changed and finding freedom underneath. The art of letting go. No longer ruled by fear, I release what I cannot control and welcome what appears. The art of letting go. It's taught me how to live. Sometimes the greatest gift we have is learning when to release. I thought letting go meant losing something important, but maybe letting go was never about loss. Maybe it was about creating space. Space for healing, space for growth, space for the person I'm still becoming. We live as if tomorrow is guaranteed, as if there will always be more time, more opportunities, more chances to say what we mean. But what if time was never ours to keep? What if every day was simply borrowed? Yeah. I spent years chasing goals beyond the horizon line, believing happiness would come with perfect time, and postponed important conversations for another day, assuming love and second chances would always stay. I measured life through milestones I had yet to achieve, ignoring all the simple moments happening underneath. Too busy planning futures I couldn't fully know. I forgot to appreciate the life I live below. We act as if we're permanent in a temporary place, running endless races at an unforgiving pace, taking ordinary mornings for granted without thought, never realizing how precious they truly are. I watched the seasons change while trying to outrun time, searching for significance through achievements I could climb, until I understood the truth I'd long ignored. Every breath I take is a gift I can't afford. If tomorrow isn't promised, what deserves my attention today? If time is borrowed, how do I choose to spend it? Time is borrowed, every moment passing by, a temporary miracle beneath an open sky. Time is borrowed, too precious to waste away, so I love more deeply and choose presence every day. Time is borrowed, no one knows how much remains. instead of fear and shame. I started noticing beauty in ordinary things, conversations with loved ones and what simplicity brings. I realized that legacy is more than what we own, it's how we make others feel and the kindness we have shown. Success no longer meant collecting endless praise, but living in alignment with the values I embrace. I stopped waiting for permission to pursue what mattered most, understanding life is fragile like a fading ghost. The future still remains uncertain and unclear, but mortality has taught me why I'm truly here. Not to prove my worth through status or acclaim, but to live authentically beyond a fleeting name. I choose to forgive quicker and appreciate the now, to express my love more openly and honor every vow. Because when the final chapter reaches its conclusion, I hope I live with purpose rather than illusion. Death does not take meaning away from life. It creates meaning, because moments end, they become precious. Because time is limited, love becomes urgent. And perhaps the beauty of being alive is knowing that none of this lasts forever. Time is borrowed, every moment passing by, a temporary miracle beneath an open sky. Time is borrowed, too precious to waste away, so I'll love more deeply and choose presence every day. For as long as it chooses me. Maybe life was never meant to last forever. Maybe that was never the point. Maybe the beauty of existence is that we are given a limited number of mornings to love, to forgive, to create, and to become. Time was never ours to keep, only ours to honor.
I spent years waiting for life to become peaceful, thinking that once the problems disappeared, once the uncertainty faded, then I would finally breathe. But life never stopped changing. Maybe peace was never the absence of chaos. Maybe peace is learning how to remain present within it. My mind was always racing faster than my feet could go, trying to predict tomorrow from the things I couldn't know. Searching for control in situations out of reach, forgetting that acceptance often holds the lessons we need. I carried every worry like it had to be solved, believing if I planned enough then fear would dissolve. But the future stayed uncertain no matter what I tried, and anxiety kept building from the battles in my mind. I fought against reality, wishing life was something new, resisting every hardship that I had to travel through. Exhausted from demanding certainty I couldn't find, I slowly started questioning the patterns in my mind. Maybe strength was never found in controlling every way. Maybe peace begins the moment we stop trying to be saved. I realized the storm outside was not mine to command, but I could choose how I responded and where I chose to stand. I cannot control the wind, I cannot predict the rain, but maybe I can learn how to breathe through both, between chaos and peace. I'm learning how to stay grounded in the present, even when the skies turn gray. Between chaos and peace, I don't need all the answers now. I trust that I can face tomorrow, even if I don't know how. Between chaos and peace, I finally understand. Stillness isn't something found, it's something we practice again. I started paying attention to the rhythm of my breath, finding moments of awareness in the middle of the stress. The simple act of noticing became a form of grace, returning to the present when my thoughts began to race. I learned that difficult emotions don't demand a war. Sometimes they simply ask to be acknowledged and explored. Fear, sadness, uncertainty all visit from time to time, but none of them define me or permanently occupy my mind. I stopped chasing perfect circumstances to feel okay. Understanding peace is cultivated day by day. It grows through self-compassion and accepting what is true, trusting I can handle more than I once thought I could do. Life remained unpredictable despite my newfound calm, yet I discovered resilience living underneath my palms. The world may keep on changing in ways I can't foresee, but I can become the steady place that lives inside of me. Peace is not the absence of storms. Peace is remembering that you can endure them. You do not need certainty to move forward. You do not need control to feel grounded. Sometimes strength looks like taking a breath, letting go, and trusting yourself anyway. Between chaos and peace, I'm learning how to stay grounded in the present, even when the skies turn gray. Between chaos and peace, I don't need all the answers now. I trust that I can face tomorrow, even if I don't know how. Between chaos and peace, I finally understand. Stillness isn't something found, it's something we practice again. Between chaos and peace, I choose to remain here, open to life, open to growth, and free from fear. The storm never completely disappeared. Life remained uncertain, the questions never stopped. But somewhere along the way, I stopped asking life to become easier, and started becoming stronger. Not through resistance, but through presence. And somewhere between chaos and peace, I learned how to breathe again.
Silence used to make me uncomfortable. I filled every empty space with noise. Music, conversations, distractions, anything to avoid being alone with my thoughts. But maybe silence was never the enemy. Maybe it was trying to tell me something. I stayed busy just to keep my mind occupied, afraid of what I'd find if I looked too deep inside. Every quiet moment brought emotions to the surface, questions I avoided and unresolved burdens. I confused being alone with being left behind, searching for distractions every single time. The noise became familiar, easier to embrace than sitting with reflections I was scared to face. Late nights in empty rooms exposed what I concealed, the fears and hidden wounds I never fully healed. Without the constant motion, there was nowhere left to run. Only honest conversations with the person I've become. I realized that loneliness wasn't simply being by myself, it was losing touch with who I was beneath everything else. And silence wasn't punishment designed to make me weak. Maybe it was creating space for truths I needed to seek. Perhaps I wasn't afraid of silence, perhaps I was afraid of what silence might reveal. Conversations with silence, teaching me to listen, hidden truths within my heart slowly become invisible. Conversations with silence, no longer something to fear. In the quiet spaces of my life, I finally learned to hear. Conversations with silence, a place where I can grow. Sometimes the deepest wisdom comes from stillness we
never know. I started noticing thoughts without becoming consumed, allowing difficult emotions enough room, learning self-compassion for the parts I tried to hide, offering understanding to the person deep inside. Stillness helped me recognize the values I hold dear, the dreams I had neglected and the reasons I am here. Without external noise deciding who I had to be, I slowly rediscovered my own authenticity. I found that solitude could nurture rather than divide, the chance to build a stronger relationship inside. Wisdom didn't arrive through force or certainty, it emerged through patient observation and honesty. I no longer needed constant validation from outside, because silence taught me how to trust my inner guide. The answers I was seeking weren't as distant as they seemed, they had always lived within me underneath my dream. Silence does not always provide answers, but it teaches us how to listen to our fears, to our hopes, to our intuition. And sometimes the voice we've been searching for has been our own all along. Conversations with silence, teaching me to listen. Hidden truths within my heart slowly become invisible. Conversations with silence, no longer something to fear. In the quiet spaces of my life, I finally learned to hear. Conversations with silence, a place where I can grow. Sometimes the deepest wisdom comes from stillness. We never know. I now understand the peace I search for everywhere was always close at hand. I spent so much of my life searching for answers in louder places, but the truths I needed most arrived quietly. And in the silence I once feared, I discovered something unexpected. I discovered myself. I discovered myself.
Yo, what if the greatest obstacle in your life wasn't the world? What if it wasn't other people? What if the person standing in your way was the version of yourself you've been trying so hard to protect? I built an image brick by brick throughout the years, using achievements to disguise my deepest fears. I measured my importance through recognition and praise, searching for validation in 1,000 different ways. I compare my journey to the people all around, believing self-worth had to constantly be found. Every criticism felt like an attack against my name, because I confused my identity with reputation and fame. Pride became a shield protecting fragile parts of me, pretending confidence while hiding insecurity. I always had to win, always had to prove my worth, as if existing wasn't enough. Since the day of my birth, I built walls around my heart and called it being strong, defending every weakness by pretending nothing's wrong. The image I created slowly started taking control, until I became imprisoned by the role I used to hold. I thought these walls would protect me, I thought this armor made me strong, but somewhere along the way, protection became a prison. The ego's prison, invisible chains I couldn't see, trying to become somebody while forgetting how to be. The ego's prison, always needing to prove my worth, until I learned that being human was enough from birth. The ego's prison, built from fear and pride. The freedom I was searching for was waiting deep inside. I started questioning the stories I believed, the identities I built and never wanted to leave. Who am I without achievements, titles, or acclaim? Without needing other people to remember my name. I learned that vulnerability wasn't something to avoid. Sometimes honesty is what fills an inner void. I stopped needing every argument to end with me being right, choosing understanding over another pointless fight. Comparison lost its power when I focused on my path, no longer measuring my value through another person's math. I discovered humility wasn't thinking less of me, but understanding self-worth doesn't require superiority. I let go expectations I was never meant to hold, released the need for constant validation I was sold. And in the quiet aftermath of setting burdens free, I found a deeper sense of authenticity. Freedom doesn't come from becoming more important, freedom comes from becoming less attached to image,
Less attached to approval, less attached to proving you deserve to exist. The ego's prison, invisible chains I couldn't see, trying to become somebody while forgetting how to be. The ego's prison, always needing to prove my worth, until I learned that being human was enough from birth. The ego's prison, no longer holding me. I found strength in letting go and finally became free. The ego's prison, the walls began to fall. I never needed to be perfect, I only needed to be real. I spent so much of my life protecting an image, defending a story, trying to become enough. But freedom didn't arrive when I became more. Freedom arrived when I realized I already was.
For a long time, I believed life was about arriving, becoming successful enough, wise enough, healed enough. But maybe life was never about reaching a final destination. Maybe life has always been about becoming. I used to chase perfection like it waited at the finish line, thinking one more victory would finally make me shine. I measured all my progress through impossible ideals, ignoring all the quiet growth that time eventually reveals. I judged myself for every failure, every wrong turn made, turning temporary setbacks into lifelong shades. I compare my path to people only showing their best days, forgetting every journey follows different roads and ways. The person I was yesterday did the best they knew, trying to survive with limited points of view. I stopped resenting older versions of myself and started showing compassion where I once demanded help. Every mistake became a lesson I could carry on. Every challenge taught resilience when I thought my strength was gone. Growth was never graceful, transformation often hurts, but discomfort plants the seeds from which a better future births.
I don't have to become perfect, I don't have to know it all. I only have to keep moving, one step at a time. I'm still becoming, still learning who I am, not defined by where I've been, but by the way I stand. I'm still becoming, there's no finish line to chase. Every fall and every lesson helped me find my place. I'm still becoming, and maybe that's enough. Life was never about perfection, it was always about growth. I stopped waiting for certainty before I made a move. Learning courage means acting even without perfect proof. The dreams I carried changed as I evolved. Understanding growth means allowing life to transform. I learned to celebrate progress nobody else could see. The moments I chose honesty and authenticity. I became kinder to myself when things didn't go as planned. Realizing self-compassion helps us truly understand. I no longer chase approval to determine what I'm worth, because value isn't something that must constantly be earned. The future still remains uncertain and undefined, but I trust the person I am becoming. Over time I embrace both strengths and flaws as parts of who I am. Understanding imperfection was never a flaw to condemn. Growth isn't becoming someone entirely new, it's uncovering the truest version already living within you. The seasons never apologize for changing, the river never doubts its direction. Nature understands what we forget. Growth is not failure, change is not weakness. You are allowed to evolve, you are allowed to become. I'm still becoming, still learning who I am. Not defined by where I've been, but by the way I stand. There's no finish line to chase. Every fall and every lesson helped me find my place. I'm still
start finally see
Life isn't about arriving.
it's about who we choose to be.
I'm still becoming.
And that's enough for me. Yeah. Maybe the goal was never perfection. Maybe the goal was never certainty. Maybe life has always been about remaining open. Open to growth, open to change, open to becoming. And perhaps that's the most beautiful part of being alive.